All right. Hello, hello, everyone. It's Amy Wentz here, candidate for City Council here in our city's amazing 8th District in Richmond, Virginia. We are going to be talking all things transportation tonight. And so I am so thankful to everyone who is joining in. Um, the virtual town halls got started because of COVID-19. We're not able to meet in large groups indoors, and so I know that it was important to hear from residents in the 8th district about things that were important to them. And it was important for me to make sure that we are matching those voices with voices that are subject matter experts in our city on all of these topics that are important to us. So super, super thankful for you all tuning in. A little bit about me. I am a lifelong Richmonder, South Cityan. I did do some time in the military and doing some work with the military, so I was out for a little while, but I have been here all my life, and I love Richmond. I love the South Side. Proud graduate of Richmond Public Schools. Matter of fact, I'm wearing my Richmond RPS Alum Showdown shirt now. I am here at the campaign headquarters, which is 3501 Route 1, and right across the street from JD Supermarket, if you're familiar with that. And yeah, the whole gang is here. Zoe is over there playing, so everyone knows I have two beautiful daughters, and one of them is here over there playing and enjoying herself in the office. But the first four that we started. As you all know, I have built my platform on the acronym AITH. Okay, and so E is for education, I is for infrastructure, G is for growth, and H is for housing. And we have had town halls in each of those categories that were amazing. We had amazing speakers and amazing dialogue and amazing action steps, because this is what this is all about. It's about assessing where we currently are in each area and really creating action steps to take us further and to take us higher. So this one is transportation. And so in Richmond, with 20% of households without a vehicle and 40% of households with only one car, people across the city rely on public transportation and public infrastructure to get around in the city. Whether going to work, grocery shopping, or simply just taking a leisurely trip to the park or to the movies, maybe after COVID-19, travel from ends of the eight to the city center can be just really tough. And with most of our transportation infrastructure funds being spent along the Broad Street corridor, the city has neglected the needs of the people on the south side. And so um, again, we are really advocating to improve our infrastructure over here, our transportation network over here, and so we are excited to talk about it today. So one of the things that I wanted to do was have Eighth District people who have ties with the Eighth District, who have traveled in our transit system across the Eighth District, to be able to just have a conversation with them about how their experience has been. What do they think we could do to improve it? One of my most seasoned supporters, okay, is actually on the bus now, and so because we start this thing right at 7. She is not here yet, but you will hear her come in, and we'll usher her to a computer in the back so that she can talk to us, Miss Margaret, when she gets off the bus. But right now, we have a good friend of mine, Lawrence, who is going to come on. I actually met him he was doing transit advocacy, and so I'm going to bring him on now, and so we can talk about riding GRTC. How you doing, Mr. Lawrence?
How you doing? Good evening. All
Good
right.
evening. So look,
Wonderful.
Miss Margaret is going to join us, but she's coming from Willow Lawn on the bus now, and so
Okay.
we're gonna let her come in, and she'll join us in a few minutes. But yeah, it was just important to me that I have been committed to riding the bus here now that I have this office here at least twice a week, and so I know to take the 3C down to the Rite Aid, and then I transfer over to Southside Plaza. Then I take the 87 home, or I could take the 86 back here. So I've kind of learned the network in this area.
Right.
But it's really important for me to not just hear from people who can take it leisurely, but to hear from people who take it, who would depend on it. And so that is,
Right.
I know that you have been riding the bus for a long time.
Right.
So I'm so
Right.
thankful to
Right.
have you on. Say hi to the people of the 8th
Yeah,
District.
how you doing? Good evening, people. It's
Yes.
wonderful to be here with you. And let's talk about transportation in this area. Um, I catch the bus over here like quite often to see my children sometimes, and I used to work up here at Subway on Forest Hill Avenue, and it was
Mhm.
good that a bus went out there because it provided a form of employment for me. So
That's right.
it was good, and I was very excited about some of the changes. It took a while because buses used to go this way, now they're going this way, and
Mhm.
you had to get the logistics of it down, and it felt kind of weird because it's sort of like switching your arms to it, and you feel that change. But
Uh-huh.
then once you get a hold of it, you kind of see, okay, some great things going on with the way the buses is going on now, and you get to places that you couldn't get to. It's kind of running a little faster. You get some beautiful new buses, some new bus stops,
Mhm.
the apps and all of that. So it was great. I see a lot of positive things going on with transportation today, but there are some issues that we still need to address. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So, what are some of the things that you see and that you feel when you're out here riding that you see that we can improve on?
Since this is the year 2020 of COVID-19, then one of the most pressing issues that I find with transportation today has to be COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to find a way as we progress with this great improvement of transportation. We
Mm-hmm.
got to realize the impact of COVID-19. How many people are riding the buses? Are the buses being properly cleaned at night? Because now when I'm on the bus, I'm looking at the ceiling, right? I'm trying to see if it looked like somebody cleaned the bus last night. I'm looking at the floor, because if I get on the bus when the first route start off and I'm looking at the bus, I should be able to see whether or not somebody cleaned the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need a COVID-19 plan for
Mm-hmm.
transportation, not only in the 8th district, but all over the city, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want it to become a place where the spread takes place. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first and foremost pressing issue with transportation this year for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise, it's some great things going on, and I actually like the new changes. But one of those pressing issues is going to have to be COVID-19,
Cleanest. Mm-hmm.
cleaning those buses. Whether or not we're going to have to use um, ultraviolet light at nighttime, I don't know what. We got to find a way to clean the whole entire bus because we have
Mm-hmm.
wonderful, beautiful drivers that some of us went to school with, some of us growed up with, and we
Mm-hmm.
definitely don't want our drivers to become sick. Um, definitely, because there are some wonderful drivers that work at GRTC with some great attitudes. So we want a clean bus for the drivers and the passengers, and we want to further see what's coming forth from Miss Julie Timms, the new CEO. She's a
Okay.
wonderful lady. I met her. I told you when you met me doing the advocacy for that bus stop down at 4th Street.
Right.
Miss Julie Timms was lightning fast. She was like bam,
Okay.
bam, bam. Yeah, so all kudos to Julie Timms. She's a
Okay.
great lady. But I want to focus on COVID-19, and I also want to focus on um, attitude. I
Mm-hmm.
would say 95% of the drivers are some wonderful people, but as in everything, just like police, you have some bad bunches. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you have a powerful union that protects bad behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to address some of the just plain old common courtesy, some sense of humanity that
Mm-hmm.
comes from the bus drivers. And like I say, 95% of them are doing a wonderful job, and it might be COVID-19 why they're acting up. So let's get
I'm writing, by the way, y'all. When you see me looking down, I'm just writing, taking notes of what Lawrence is
yeah,
saying.
right,
What about, so one of the things that we have heard from a lot of Southside residents is that, they take the bus at the plaza because the plaza is supposed to be our hub and
right,
our, you know what I mean? And we have been looking at the condition of that. If it is in truly indeed a hub, we just really want to reimagine that space over there, that it
right,
could
right,
be a place of dignity, a place that people can come and feel comfortable as they wait. Because there's so many buses that come in and out of that area right there.
right,
And
right,
so
exactly.
how do you feel? You feel that, that we can do better at that, and you have
Yeah,
any
I think it needs
suggestions
some
on?
improvement. Think it needs some improvement there. May need some people to do a study on it. I'm not an expert in how the logistics will play out with that, but I do
Mhm.
see a need to improve the situation over there because it is, like you say, a magnet. It's an attracting hub over there, and it will help improve businesses, bring in people, you know, and it's an overall good thing for the whole city and the district.
Yes. So one of the things that as I've been taking the bus, okay, because as somebody who's a new bus rider, like for like everyday use, I just noticed like the infrastructure issues. So like when I'm having to go from when I get off of the bus at the plaza, at the hub right next to the Southside Community Development Center, Social Services Building, you have to walk to Belt Boulevard over by the VA hospital.
Right, right.
So I noticed that there's no sidewalk. So I was like, wait a minute, how does this work? Like if you have to rush to get to that bus,
Okay.
how are you
Yeah.
able? Because you have to hop like a couple of medians, and it just shows you how infrastructure and bus net, and public transportation, they intersect together. And so
right. Because imagine that was difficult for you to do. Imagine an elderly person.
Or if I was in a wheelchair or somebody in a stroller, right?
Exactly. So those people within the population needs to be served better when it comes to transportation and infrastructure, and you can tie those together and kill two birds with one stone. So, but overall, I'm really happy with what they have done with the bus system. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that.
So one of the things that we're really advocating for, so we have this new bus 111, the Fallen Creek John Tyler bus, and that'll take you. Okay, so that takes you all the way down Route 1 into Chesterfield, all the way into Chester, so that you can actually go to John Tyler Community College. Okay. And so one of the things that we're trying to advocate for is that if there is a new BRT, a new pulse, that actually come to Southside. And so whether that be, down Route 1, which that would be what I would want to happen, or whether that's down Pole Street. But either way, to have a new rapid transit bus to connect those together. How do you feel about the pulse coming over here to Southside? And you think that would be a good option?
A good thing, especially if it's connecting people to education. Use like to the college, yeah.
And see how that intersects with with education too. Like you said, job opportunities. You were able to take that bus to your place of employment. So we want to get this right. Well, is there anything else you want to add about transportation and your experience, or things that you think that we can work on? Because if and when I'm in that seat, I'll be able to help fund some of those things.
Is there still a bus that goes to Petersburg?
Petersburg, I believe there's a connector, but guess what? I have some experts that are going to come on the line in a second, and I'm sure one of them has the answer.
Okay, I don't know.
I've been actually studying all of our South Side lines, and so I'm not sure about Petersburg, but I will get when they come on, I will make sure that I ask them about that. So let me see that. You'll be able to hear us. We'll be backstage. You'll be backstage. But yes, okay. So unfortunately, I guess Miss Margaret, she's still making her way in here. When she gets in here, she will talk to us at that time. But we are going to close things out with you, Mr. Lawrence. I just appreciate your time.
Right.
I'm thankful that you came on here with me, and we're going to work to get it better. We're going to work to get it better. So a couple of things I'm going to talk to GRTC about is their COVID-19 cleanliness plan.
Yeah, definitely.
And then some of the things about what you're talking about, the attitudes of drivers. For the most part, we know that.
Right, because the reason why I address that, because just like if you're working in nursing or even with the police, because you don't want to provoke incidents. Like there was an incident one time where the guy stabbed the GRTC lady and ripped her arm down like that.
Oh my goodness.
I think, allegedly, that she somehow participated in it, and she was not able to get any benefits or anything behind it. But so it's got to be, there needs to be some training, more training with dealing with the public. And like I said, 90-some% of the bus drivers are some good, well-mannered people. I appreciate them and I love them a lot. But with any group, you have some bad apples, and those things need to be worked out, especially with just human relations, common courtesy.
Of course, and that's industry-wide. That's throughout the city, and that's industry-wide. We just want to have positive attitudes, positive customer.
And address the COVID, because just like COVID is contagious, attitudes are contagious.
Hmm.
We don't want to get, those two things raging on us on the bus.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All of the things connect: education, jobs, infrastructure, and transportation. Those are the things that connect, and I think that Amy is the person that can do the job.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lawrence. I really appreciate you. And
And
we're
we
gonna.
had conversations. We had conversations at the monument this Saturday. Um,
Okay.
yeah, where we invited some of the local leaders out, and also to demonstrate to our young Black people how to get in some good trouble, like John Lewis said,
Oh
and
yes.
and do some
Rest in
peaceful
peace. Rest in
protesting,
power.
right? And sit back and talk civil and actually get
Mhm.
something going on. So I just want to remind people of that. That there's conversations at the monument that are going to lead to work in the hood.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's right.
like some
It's
of the work we're talking about today. You know what I'm
Yeah, it's important. It's important that we reach everyone, and so that's
saying?
why we're doing these so that we can hear from everyone, all the stakeholders, and a lot of times that's where we, as as leaders, we can get it wrong when we're not listening to the right folks, and so we just want to
Right,
make sure that we're listening to the folks that are really truly impacted. There's a lot of a push to make sure that we are incentivizing folks to take the bus just for environmental
right,
reasons and for health reasons, just all those things, take public transportation, but we want to make sure that we are also advocating for people who rely on public transportation for work and for important day-to-day life. So thank you so much for joining us,
I
and we're
appreciate
going
you.
to
Good
because
evening.
I want, but I want you to stay on and listen, right? Because guess what? I'm bringing up some experts that are going to talk to us about what they're doing currently to advocate for transportation around the city, and how we can move forward. How can we can assist them, and some of the great things that are ahead for us. So we're going to talk about those next. But I really appreciate you.
No doubt. And you guys have a nice day. Thank
All
you.
right, take care. All right. So thank you so much to Lawrence. Like I said, y'all, I was going to have Miss Margaret on. Miss Margaret is a 70-year-old avid bus rider. She is very passionate about public transportation, and she had a lot of things to say. But unfortunately, she's still on the bus. And so hopefully, when she pops in, we'll be able to talk to her because I really want you all to be able to hear her. Um, but let's bring on, okay, are we good? All right. So we're going to bring on our amazing panelists, our amazing subject matter experts. Hello, Kendra. Hello,
Yeah.
Louise. I'm going to say you all's amazing bios really quickly, and then I'm just going to give you some time to kind of just say hi to all of the folks in the 8th District. So first we have Kendra Norrell. She is the board president of RVA Rapid Transit. The mission of RVA Rapid Transit is to advocate for frequent and far-reaching transit in the Richmond region. They believe that regional public transportation is key to creating a thriving and interconnected region where citizens can access greater opportunities like employment, which we just talked about, workforce development, commerce, higher education, nutritious food, routine healthcare, and much more. So thank you so much for joining us, Kendra. And we also have Louise Lockett Gordon. She is the executive director for Bike Walk RVA. Bike Walk RVA is a program of sports backers that advocates for comfortable and connected places to bike and walk for people of all ages and abilities. It was founded in 2012 to advocate for the growth and infrastructure to help normalize biking and walking through the region. Welcome, Louise. We are so glad to have you.
Thank
And
you.
so first, and I'll just start with Kendra, just kind of tell us a little bit about what you do for transportation in the Richmond area.
Yeah, so RVA Rapid Transit, as you said, focuses on frequent and far-reaching transit in the city of Richmond as well as around the region. And currently, we're going through a restructuring of our organization to make sure that we're actually advocating for the community priorities and making sure that we're really in a place where we're sort of elevating and empowering people to advocate for themselves when it comes to public transportation, especially since in the realm of funding things, the more people who express a desire for this, the more likely it is to be embraced at a higher level, especially in government. So we're currently really focused on figuring out our own internal structure as an organization so that we can better represent the needs of the city of Richmond moving forward.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And how about you, Miss Louise?
Yeah. So as Amy said, Louise Lockett Gordon, I'm the director of Bike Walk RVA, which is a program of sports backers, which is the nonprofit whose mission is to ensure that all people from all corners of our community can live actively. And you can do that in a lot of ways, but it's hard to live actively every day if you don't have sidewalks and bike lanes and things that make it safe for you to get around by foot or by pedal or by wheelchair. So we were formed in 2012. We focus on not just the city of Richmond, but our region as a whole. So Henrico and Chesterfield and Hanover. And increasingly, we've been expanding that to include a little bit more south along the Ashland to Petersburg Trail corridor that we'll probably talk about a little bit more. But happy to be here. And I also just want to say thank you to Mr. Lawrence for everything that he was talking about earlier. I feel like he really just laid the stage and just made it really easy for us to talk about all his points.
Yes, very much so. And I just want to add too that both of these ladies are here as subject matter experts. I am running for office, but in no way does their appearance mean that they are endorsing me. They would love to talk to any candidate and any person that is excited about transportation. So we just want to make sure that that's clear for everybody listening at home. So let's see. The first thing I wanted to talk about is just about advocating for additional frequency as well as additional stops. If people wanted, if they said, you know what, I really would like a stop here, or I want the bus to come every 15 minutes instead of every 30 minutes, what is the best way for riders to go about doing that?
Yeah, so for stops, the GRTC actually has a form on their website, I believe, that allows you to put in information for where you want to stop and like at the intersection. And then they internally evaluate those requests. And I think it's a comparison of the amount of people requesting a stop in a specific area as well as the ridership around that area. So that's one way to sort of personally advocate for a stop near where you need one. When it comes to increasing frequency or the amount of routes, a lot of that is based on city funding. And so one of the best ways to really move that needle is to advocate with your city council representative or the mayor. We also have the Central Virginia Transportation Agency that's coming up. And so it goes by CVTA, and a lot of times I just remember acronyms. But this is a pot of money that's going to be used for a lot of regional transportation. And I think that there's a couple of bus routes that I think can be redefined more so towards regional transportation and less focus on just local transportation. So I think that this is a larger conversation that needs to happen in the city of Richmond to really assess where we as a community value transportation and how we value transportation and what sort of direction we want to move forward, and making sure that moving around the city is sustainable and equitable. And making sure that we're meeting the needs and goals of the entire community and not just certain parts of the city.
Great. We were talking earlier about that new agency that new regional agency. Louise, can you add anything about how that is going to benefit Richmonders and what we should look forward to in that new creation of that new agency?
Yeah, I think I'll back up just a little bit when we're kind of talking about funding for transportation stuff in general, right? So you can advocate for the city's budget directly to address transportation needs. There's also state kind of buckets of money that the localities can apply for to bring dollars back. And then there's this newly created regional transportation funding source called the Central Virginia Transportation Authority that was just authorized and passed at the General Assembly earlier this year. And the breakdown of that is the funding for that is generated through some gas tax assessments. And then 35% of the funds will go towards a regional pot, if you will, that the region can decide how that money is spent out for projects. And then 15% will go towards GRTC, and then 50% will go back proportionally to the localities for them to decide how they want to spend their, piece of the pot in their locality. So I think the important thing for Richmond is that regional pot, right? Let's not forget about making sure that we get our priorities in discussion there. Yeah. And then also from our own pot that comes back to us, your value, you communicate your value based off of where you put your money, right? So is the amount that we're
they say that your budget reflects your values,
right?
Yeah.
So what do we value with that CBTA money? And
Right.
and if you ask me, I'm going to say, I want more sidewalks and bike lanes and trails, and first mile, last mile connection with transit. But both of those pieces of CVTA, Central Virginia Transit Authority, are opportunities for people to advocate for what they want, because they're not outlined by any means. So it's up to the locality to decide, and that's the point of interest for us, is to communicate what we want.
So recently, I was offered commentary into an article that we talked about bike lanes, right? And we talked about how can council members in districts where we're at the top of the list for everything from evictions to heat related illnesses, we just have so much need over here in the 8th district. Like, how would we be able to prioritize bike lanes, certain things like that? And I offered commentary before I took my little transportation brief. My team, we did a ride on GRTC in the area, and I was so how they have in the front of the buses a bike section where you can put up to 2 bikes. It was full every time, and so people were taking bikes off and bringing bikes on, and I was like, Dad, what happens if a third bike comes? Like, how is this going to work? Because I was seeing how many people actually use bikes through the transit system. So I think that even though maybe the people that I'm calling on the phone every day, and talking to, might not be talking about bikes, but when you meet folks where they are and you see them actually actively using them, it's really important that we get their voices and that their concerns as well. So I have that now as one of the things that I'm going to do. But the big thing too for us over here is just like trying to improve the connection. Like, I looked at the maps, and like we have a lot of sections of just neighborhoods that don't have easy access, and because we have heat issues over here with less trees, a lot more people are walking in areas that aren't as shaded. And especially now with the heat, it's just been crazy the last 3 weeks. It's been hard to see folks, try to make those extra, like you said, 1 and 2 mile connections. So one of the things that, we're trying to do is just do a better assessment of how we can kind of navigate the 86 and the 87 through neighborhoods a little bit better, so that it doesn't affect folks in their homes, but it does give us additional exposure to areas that we don't currently have coverage on. So I think it was another thing I wanted to talk about. Oh yes, the Ashland to Petersburg Trail. That's what it was. Could you tell us about that? Everybody is really getting excited about it. Every time we talk about transit, people start talking about that trail and how that is supposed to be like the next big thing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd like to take this one. I hope there's a lot of feedback. But so the Ashland to Petersburg Trail, or whatever the name will be, coming soon.
It's a portion of it comes through the 8th, so.
Exactly. It runs through, 7 different jurisdictions. It'll be around 43 miles in length when it's all said and done. And so it'll connect Ashland, Hanover, Henrico, the city of Richmond, Chesterfield, Colonial Heights, and Petersburg. And specifically through the 8th, from the end of the Potterfield Bridge,
okay,
come down Sims to Commerce, wrap all the way around Commerce to Belmead, and then take a left on Route 1, and then continue down Route 1 to exit out the city to Chesterfield. And I think we've seen in Virginia and in Central Virginia, specifically, like the impact that the Virginia Capitol Trail has had, with the increase of people being able to connect through the city and increasing biking and walking along that corridor, but also the businesses that have benefited along that corridor. So I think in terms of Ashland to Petersburg in Richmond and through the 8th, I think it will be a main biking and walking connection, particularly also with transit in Richmond 300. I thank Mr. Lawrence for bringing this up about enhanced transit along Route 1. That's actually, Route 1 is actually outlined in the Richmond 300 Master Plan draft for enhanced transit and increasing biking and walking capability in that corridor. So it aligns, right up with that. I think it also provides an opportunity to introduce a little bit more green kind of space through the corridor.
Which is important for us here because, as I said, with all the heat-related illnesses, in the 300 plan, I remember us vividly talking about creating that green walkway here that's similar to kind of like what they have down by the canal,
Like the low line, yeah.
It's so beautiful down there. We want it to be beautiful over too. Yeah,
I do too.
We want to be able to take walks down and, enjoy the green space.
Yeah, and then it's close to the school, elementary school in that corridor. Like ties, it's an easier access to get from south up across the river. Like it's just an important kind of transportational project, I think.
Okay, so speaking of, and sorry, Kendra, I know I'm going back to bike lanes. I'm going to give you some stuff to talk about in a second. But, we only have one bike lane in the 8th District, and that's on Broad Rock Boulevard. They call it a bike lane, but really, I think that it's just kind of paint on it's not as safe as we like it to be. I'll just say that. Have you all been doing work on assessing the 8th District and Southside in general on where, the best places could be? I know you all had a survey out. Could you talk a little bit about, the results of that and where you're looking to expand your advocacy?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, for folks who may be less familiar, 2015 master plan was approved. So that kind of laid sort of the foundation for the bike network in Richmond. And so Broad Rock is part of that. There's some connections along Warwick that's laid out in that plan, some connections closer to Oak Grove Belmead. And so we've made strides in about 32-ish and counting miles of bicycle facilities of about 50-ish that's laid out in the plan, right? But so the question is, we've proven that we can do this, right? That we can do bicycle facilities and that we can adjust and folks will have safe spaces to bike and get through the city. The next question, to your point, is, so where do we go from here? And I think in thinking about like a framework of how we prioritize stuff, I like to go back to the work that Kendra and I've done as advisory council members for Richmond 300 on kind of what that looks like. And so there's a number of maps. Not everybody's a map person, but when you lay the heat island effect that you're talking about, because we have plenty of spaces that don't have trees and don't provide shade for folks walking and biking. When you overlay that with our high injury network map, so the map of streets
high injury network,
that maps out streets with high incidence of fatalities and severe injuries that are traffic related. Overlay that. When you overlay, the health outcomes like numbers of diabetes and cardiovascular disease outcomes, and you overlay that with socioeconomic indicators. All of those maps overlaid together tell the same story of where we should be investing in biking and walking and transit. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to kind of guess where those those corridors are, right? They're going to be a little bit touch in the East End, the 8th, the 9th. are big pockets that we need to focus on. So I think when we're thinking about a framework, kind of need to be thinking about those things to equitably move forward. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's just like a lot of folks get nervous, right, when we start trying to improve these things, even though we know that that's a need, because they start thinking like, oh, they're improving it because they're not improving it for us that are living here. They're improving it to attract, folks that aren't from here to the area. And so I think that when we're, having these conversations, it's just important for us to ensure that, that folks understand that you deserve this great infrastructure. You deserve to have things that other districts have. And it's not that we're doing this to lure anyone else into your neighborhood. You deserve it just as you are right here. So that's one of the things that we've just been, folks don't like to talk. They think it kind of leads to gentrification. And I just want to make sure that people understand that it's important that folks know that you deserve it. You deserve great infrastructure right here in the 8th District, just because, our area might suffer from, from impoverished times, does not mean that we don't deserve the best the city services that they have to offer, because we still pay taxes too. So let's see, I'm going to move back over to Bus Network and just, we were talking to Mr. Lawrence of the potential of a BRT coming down the Route 1 corridor. And so maybe to connect with the 111, the new coverage that goes out to Chester. What's our hope for that? What should we be doing to try to help with that? Are there any federal grants similar to I guess it was the Tiger grant before that we got for the other one? Is there anything like that you've seen on the horizon that we can be hopeful of, or just any information you could provide about that?
Oh gosh, I know that I don't know about any of the funding for having a BRT coming down Route 1, but I know that this is something that's being looked at on a lot of different sections throughout the city. So a lot of people are very interested in sort of establishing a second BRT, if you will, because when it comes to ridership, one of the things that has really come to fruition for the city of Richmond is that people now recognize that when you have more frequent service, it makes it easier for people to ride the bus. It also makes it easier for them to make it to where they need to go in a timely and respectable fashion. As a person who has regularly ridden the GRTC, it is frustrating to have to plan long term when it comes to trying to get from point A to point B. And so, especially on the south side. So really having this sort of infrastructure that provides the opportunity, if you will, to functionally get around the city, I think is something that people are really interested in at multiple levels throughout the city, including the city government as well as organizations within the city. And I think that having more community movement around that would be really beneficial. It helps to have not only just community backing, but community participation in the planning process to make sure that the priorities of the space the project is being built in are being met while also offering this additional service.
Okay. So if folks want to know more about either of your organization and how they can get involved, how could they do that?
Yeah, so you can find us at rvarapidtransit.org. So that's our website. We have regular blog posts and emails blasts that come out from there. As I said earlier, we're going through a little bit of restructuring, so there's going to be a little bit of a pause coming from our end. But this is a positive restructuring, more so in the movement of making sure we're meeting community priorities as well.
Okay. And how about you?
Yeah, the website URL is probably long, but if you just Googled Bike Walk RVA, you can find us. You can sign up to receive email updates about things that are going on, and we specifically send those out based off of where you live, so that you don't get inundated with things.
Stuff that's good. That's smart. That's a good.
And then we're also on social media, so Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bike Walk RVA. And then my work email address is louise@sportsbackers.org. I'm happy to connect with anybody who's got questions and wants to talk.
So that's what I was about to say. I'm going to have you all hold on for a second because we always leave a few minutes where people who are listening in can ask questions. So if you are listening in and you want to ask our panelists a question, this is the time to do that. And I'll check in with my folks to see if there are any. Did you see anybody asking? Nope. All right. So, let's see. If this area does not improve, then we cannot look to have businesses come here. So that was more of a statement, but yes. So the infrastructure fixes are really important because in order for us to track the businesses that we want to be able to provide the jobs that we want, that have the livable wages, that have the great benefits, we just need to improve the corridors. And so, one of my focuses is improvement of our corridors. And so transportation, public access is key and really important in that goal. Is there anything else that you all are just burning about that you want to talk about? Because there's also the Commonwealth Transportation Board, right? At the state level, like is that something that we can look at to advocate to our needs, or anything else you all want to talk about that you all are working on that you want to tell the folks in the 8th District about?
I go first since I made Kendra go first last time. Yeah, I think, God, there's so many things that Mr. Lawrence said that I wanted to talk about. But I think one of the things that he said that I feel like is really important when we think about transportation planning, he said, imagine, an elderly person trying to navigate here. And so when we're thinking about who's going to be using this stuff, we have to think about people ages 8 to 80. And it gets to that point that Kendra was talking about earlier about this stuff should be easy. If we make stuff easy and comfortable, more people will use it, right? I mean, of course, there are folks that have to use it, and we want it to be safe and comfortable for them as well. But you'll also increase just the amount of people who are using it if it's easy to do it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I live actually off of Walmsley. Broad Rock turns into Iron Bridge, and there's like a little section of it before you get to the Chesterfield border. But my closest bus stop is like Walmsley and Broad Rock area. And so when that increased to the times from 6 o'clock to 10:30 happened, that really benefited us in that area because we weren't really, how I go to meetings all the time. I'm in meetings like every other night prior to COVID-19. And it would be a lot of times where I just wanted to take the bus downtown to not have to worry about parking or parking tickets. And so that was a real benefit for us there. I did have somebody ask the question about benches and about just coverings on the south side, and just, is it the same process to advocate for that as the stop? Like, how do they make the decision on who gets benches, who doesn't? I know it's based on who's getting on and off at the stops, how many people are there. But what can we do to advocate for better benches, coverings, shelter for folks that are riding?
Yeah, I believe that's the exact same process for requesting a stop. And so there will be an option to request for the amenities that come with the stop at different. And it comes with the same.
I actually have the form because we are advocating to add a stop to for Bouchard Middle School, so a little piece of the 87 to be able to come off and kind of go through the bus loop, so that if parents and teachers and whoever else at the school wants to be able to use it to access the middle school, they'll have a way to do that. So I will make sure, that's a homework for me. That question was from Jess, and I will make sure that I post the link to putting to advocating for a new stop and benches on the site. So that will be my homework, to make sure that I post that. All right. Let's see. Yeah.
Amy, can I ask you one more thing?
No, we have time. I was trying to see if Margaret was going to be walking up and try to get her, because I know that she is a spitfire, and she loves to talk about her experience on GRTC. And so she takes it everywhere. She's 70. She actually started classes at J. Sargent Reynolds one day. She said she wanted to learn about, she's been working at the VA hospital for years and years and years. And she said that she found out that they had a CNA class for certified. She's a nursing assistant, but she's never been certified. So she now takes classes at J. Sargent Reynolds at 70 years old to become a certified nurse. And yes, this woman is right here in the 8th District. So these are the types of folks that we have over here, you know what I mean? Inspiring others, inspiring me, to to get it together. She's out here taking the bus to school every day, so. But go ahead, finish saying what you want.
Oh, I was just going to say there was one more thing Mr. Lawrence was talking about, and that was COVID and the impact on our transportation system. In my old life, my background is actually in public health, and so I was, if I wasn't at Sports Backers, I'd be involved in the COVID response right now. I think walking, biking, and also transit are foundational for our transportation, and especially walking and biking, right? Like right now, walking and biking is probably the safest form of transportation because it's outside. You can usually be by yourself. You can social distance. And so we don't know what the next emergency is going to be. We haven't even got out of this one, but, we don't know what the next emergency will bring. And baseline is always, your fallback is always going to be walking and biking. And so it's incredibly important to make sure that we always think about that in our effort.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I think I failed to talk about, because we were talking about that article that I said, and I was like, bikes might not be on the top of everyone's mind during COVID-19, right? But how do we approach in the future infrastructure as a health need? Just improving the infrastructure, it would help me tremendously just in my health lifestyle if I had safe infrastructure to walk to and from the bus, to get back and forth to things, because I would be doing a lot more walking, and I would be doing a lot more, a lot more movement, and it would help me to lose a little weight. I'll just be honest. And so, and we want everybody to feel comfortable and safe in their health journey too, to be able to do that safely.
Yeah, I also think that in the process of thinking about transportation and transit systems, that when we talk about it, we as a city need to make sure that we're not separating out buses and bikes and walking, because all of that infrastructure is very much connected to each other. Something Louise mentioned earlier was the last mile when it comes to transportation. And so while there is a bit of distance between a lot of bus stops and where people live, providing in that safe infrastructure to either walk or bike to those bus stops really helps improve the transportation system in a larger way. Also, if you choose to bike regularly and it starts raining, just already having that sort of built-in infrastructure connection between public transportation and biking is really beneficial. So like the holistic thinking and planning when it comes to transportation systems is something that I really would like us to move towards advocating for, just as a city, so that we're making sure that we are meeting the needs of everyone and not sort of building systems that aren't integrated with each other.
That makes sense. Integrated systems. I'm writing all this stuff down, you all, because it's really important to me that we get this right. There's just so much neglect over here. I'm sure you all have been through here. I actually, some of the folks at Bike Walk RVA have come over on their bikes to just kind of do assessments with us over here. And it can be a real unsafe place, for biking and walking. And so, historically, we just haven't been. I think on my infrastructure town hall, we went through the sidewalk list on who was next to get sidewalks. I think it was like the second page before you even got to the first mention of the 8th district. And then after the first mention, it was like another 14 down before the second. So it's like, I don't know how those lists are made and how they're doing those assessments, but I really want to be a firm advocate for areas and neighborhoods that just have never had infrastructure at all, to be able to get some of those needs met. So you all will be working with me soon on a lot of this stuff, because we just want to get it right over here in the 8th. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, do you need anything else? Last call. I was about to say, let me go through my notes here. The smart scale funding, we talked about that a little bit. The transportation board a little bit. Let's see. We also talked about Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation grants. Did we talk about that at all?
We talked a little bit about funding in general. I did want to point out, Mr. Lawrence asked about Southside Plaza and like a plan for that area. And in the Richmond 300 draft, Southside Plaza is called out specifically as a focus area, a node, whatever we're calling it, but an area that, is called out as we want to focus on this and improve the infrastructure and connection around that area. So I would say that it's there. It's just a draft though. So, it's still time for you to, comment.
Thoughts and yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good too. I think I'm going to go through my little list one more time just to make sure that I had everything that I wanted to talk about. Buses in the 8th have at their fastest 15-minute time in between intervals. Let's see. High frequency buses on the main roads, but neighborhood bus routes only run about once an hour. And that's the thing that we're trying to fix. So that once an hour can be painful because if you miss that bus, you're waiting for a long time. And so just working on making sure that we can improve that frequency on Route 86 and 87. Let's see. There are many streets lacking sidewalks where pedestrians have to walk in the grass median or ditch to get to their destination on foot. We already talked about that last mile, first mile, and ADA compliance, making sure that we're doing that. We talked about the Ashland to Petersburg Trail. We talked about the fact that we only have one bike lane. Let's talk about this really quickly. The Richmond Public Schools PASS program, providing unlimited transportation for RPS high school students on local routes, including the Pulse at no cost. I mean, is this program been doing well? Students have been talking good about this. Is this something that we want to continue? What do we think about that?
So right now, it's free to ride the bus for anyone, but I built up the program, the RPS PASS program, so I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think that one place it can move to, especially if the GRTC goes back to charging for rides, is including middle school students in this process. That is, when I worked there was a lot of discussion from parents on advocating about including middle school students because there's a lot of out of zone middle school students. They're old enough to ride the bus by themselves, get from point A to point B. And so just including them in that process. But with the high school students, it was really beneficial. One of the things that I heard a lot was that it offered the opportunity to actually go get a job. And so this offered this space for employment for our young people because they were able to ride the bus for free. And then they were able to sort of experiment with public transportation because there was a financial risk tied with learning how to use the GRTC. And so a lot of that has, it was very inspiring for me to just sort of see how there was a change in ridership from a demographic of people just based off of being provided free access, free, secure, and stable access to the bus system. And if those passes don't come through for middle school students, something that I don't think a lot of people know is that youth get to ride 50% off. So It's 75 cents one way. And the only thing you need is a photo ID with your age on it, and the GRTC will provide those to you if you don't have like a state issued ID for your young person.
And where do you go to get to the headquarters?
No, so there's an online form that you can fill out. I believe you mail it in, or you could drop it off at the headquarters. But as a person who rode the bus to the GRTC headquarters, it's not the best place to take the bus.
Isn't that great? So we've been talking to try to see if they can also the bus hub over there that sits in the 8th district, and that hub would not be able to be looking like that any other district. I'll just be honest. So we got to get a beautifying project in there. I'm sure that there's some organization that would love to partner with GRTC on beautifying that we used to play. That used to be the bowling alley that we used to go to when we were in high school, and now it's just turned into like a desolate, graveyard for old buses, and it's just kind of depressing. We just need to see that place, get better, especially with
And thinking about the GRTC reminds me that one of the things that I would like to see in the 8th district is crosswalks, and improved crossing infrastructure. I've run across the street enough times to know that it is very dangerous.
Hepbell Boulevard, right there by the church, trying to catch that. Right, I'm like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was trying to catch Alex. And he had to hold the bus for me because I was trying to run and make my way.
Yes, I definitely missed the bus because I've been unable to cross the street.
Okay, so we can come up with a cool little fun advocacy slogan for crosswalks. So improved crosswalks. I'm gonna be thinking about that as well because I have witnessed that firsthand. So that would be awesome. And last question, because I know we have 5 minutes left, and I want to talk to the folks before they leave. But how long will GRTC be free right now with COVID-19 practices happening? It's like, is there a tentative timeline of when that's going to end, or how long that's going to be there?
From my understanding, it's through the rest of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And I think after the fiscal year, it comes back to constituents advocating for that increased funding to the GRTC.
Okay, so through end of the year. And then are they still just saying essential trips only, or I mean, all trips to me seem to be essential, but is that it's all good.
Yeah, most recently I've seen just that you have to wear a face mask. I have not actually seen essential trips only recently. So
yeah, I haven't seen it on the bus anymore in the front.
Yeah.
Okay, so face mask, bring your face mask, and you don't have to you want to come say hi? Okay, come say hi. Zoe is here in her bell dress. You say hi to everyone. And she likes to ride the bus too. So that's good. She loves to take those trips. It's been a minute. Yeah, not during COVID-19, but we'll try to get on there soon. Again, thank you, both of you, for just being in this space with us. I think that it's really important that we center conversations around these topics for 8th District voters, because I think a lot of times, and residents, because a lot of times, they're just left out of the conversation. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Margaret.
Oh, Miss Margaret, she might be here. Okay, well, we'll see, because if you look outside and see if you see her walking from the bus stop. All right, you all. Well, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Love to you both. All right, you all. So thank you so much for joining us as we talk about transportation. I think it's really important that we really assess where our needs are currently right now. And it's okay to dream big, right? It's okay to envision improvements, reimagine things for our area, because when it's time to advocate for that money, we better know what exactly we want. So super, super thankful for our panelists. Super thankful for, do you see her out there? Did she call? Is she calling? Okay. Well, look, y'all, I really wanted you all to talk to Miss Margaret. I'm going to have to schedule another little time where she can just come on and talk to you all about her experience, because we really want you to hear it. She is just a real gem in this district, and she takes the bus everywhere, so I just really wanted her to have her experience. Is there any other questions for me before we go? See if we're looking on there. All right, so look, you all, we have one more of these as a part of the platform town halls. We have one more left, health and safety. That's in 2 weeks from today at 7 p.m. And then after that, we're going to have 2 more virtual town halls. One is going to be all in Spanish, and the other one is going to be centered around our youth. So we're going to bring in our children and youth and talk about their needs. And so I am so thankful for you all joining us. Again, you can reach me anytime at 446-1029. That's my phone number. You can send me an email, info@amyandthe8th.com. You can check out our website, www.amyandthe8th.com. You can also, what's another way? Oh, all of the social medias. So you can get me on Instagram @amyandthe8th, youtube.com/amyandthe8th, Facebook, of course, /amyandthe8th, and Twitter /amyandthe8th. So Amy and the 8th on everything. If you drive or ride by Broad Rock at the train station, you'll see my big billboard up, because we are trying to make sure that we get to as many residents in the 8th District as possible. And yes, thanks you all for tuning in. Again, I will bring Miss Margaret on so you can all hear from her later. But yeah, it's all about transportation tonight. We are thankful to our guests for coming, and thank you all for tuning in.